Thank you so much for having me. I think this
so
is
much
my online streaming debut.
Is it really?
Well, for an interview, yeah.
Well, it's like a 20-minute interview, so get ready. We're gonna get into it. That clip, that's from the first episode of the new season. It's an exclusive clip that we've just premiered. The show is on right now, so you can really go watch the clip in the episode, right?
Yeah.
This is the third season of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. It's the funniest show on television or the internet or whatever it is we watch things on these days. I don't know.
Yes, watch it where you may.
What is it like to have been working with Tina Fey, Robert Carlock, and I know they have a very a close crew that they've been working together with forever. What's it like to have been doing this with them for now going on, what, 10 years?
Yes, I think we just completed our 10th season of television together, which is...
Or streaming internet, whatever it is.
Exactly, yes, exactly. And that to me is a little bit like mind-boggling because I just think about the day that I was called to just go meet them for a show called 30 Rock, and you go to a million of these appointments and you just walk in and you don't know that that day could change your future and your life. And so I feel like that was one of those days because I got in with two of the best writers and the people that I admire so much and so thrilled to get to work with. And 30 Rock was one of the best experiences ever, and then to be asked to work with them again. And on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt has been a bit of a homecoming, really. On the first day I got there, and it was 95%, I would say, of the same crew and all creative teams from 30 Rock. So it was more of a homecoming than starting a new job, per se. Obviously, a very new character, but as Tina's about to do Mean Girls, and I'm so thrilled for her for a Broadway musical, and I'm like, I see no reason why our collaboration should stop now.
Are you trying to get into Mean Girls?
Anything I can. Let's just keep this going. It's going very well for both of us.
Who would you like to play in Mean Girls?
I don't know. I actually don't even think there's a part for me in Mean Girls, but I will do whatever Tina Fey needs in any job that she has. I'll be the stage doorman at this point, probably, for Mean Girls.
It's funny that you say it was 95% people from 30 Rock, because I remember when the first episodes of Kimmy Schmidt came out, and the first couple episodes, they're different characters, but tonally right away, it's like, oh my God, 30 Rock is back. The way the jokes are structured, the way the show feels, and then the show has kind of really developed into its own thing as the characters have consistently developed. But how similar does it feel to you every day as to 30 Rock, as to being on 30 Rock?
Well, I think the cadence of their writing, for sure, comes from the same voices, from the same genius minds that they have. And the comedy timing is, I think, quite similar. One of the luxuries that we have, certainly when we went to Netflix, was that the pace could slow down a slight bit. I mean, one of the things at 30 Rock was we had 22 minutes to get in all of the material, and it sort of became like if you wanted your storyline to make it in and get all of your jokes in, you had to talk really fast.
Yeah, that show's a mad dash. It's a comedy sprint, which is why I always loved it.
But if you watch the early ones, we're not talking that fast. And then more and more jokes kept getting written in, and so we'd be talking faster and faster. And I know, like at the beginning of the season, it was really hard to talk that fast because we had months off, and we started slowing down and talking like normal people. And then we would like warm up and get into the 30 Rock pace. But your jokes would stay in more if you could speak faster because they'd have less time to have to cut. So I think that's partly why 30 Rock's pace got so quick. And it also matched the tone of the show and sort of the live bustle of a behind-the-scenes show like 30 Rock was. But with Netflix, we are not confined to 22 minutes. We still try to come in about 30 minutes with each episode, but they're not mandated to do that. So there's a little more room for breathing, perhaps establishing a shot, or even taking a breath between sentences.
Do you see similarities between your character on Kimmy Schmidt and your character on 30 Rock? When they brought you in or gave you the pilot for Kimmy Schmidt and we were like, we want you to do this, were you like, guys?
Well, I have to say, I said yes to doing this job without knowing anything what the character was going to be. Tina wrote me an email one day and said, would you like to come on my new show? And I wrote yes, ! And press send. So I had no idea. By the way, that ruined my contract negotiations. It was like, I had already said yes. It was, my agents were like, what? You did what? You said yes already?
You called your agent after that email?
I did, after that email.
I said yes. God,
yeah. Yeah. True story. Yeah, true. But
good for Tina Fey. She really knows how to use her clout.
She's a brilliant genius. She's a genius businesswoman. No, she really is, though. But as I say, I would follow her to wherever she asked me to go, because I really do feel that she's not only has it been a great partnership, and do I feel like I've gotten to work with some of the best people in comedy and the people that I'd want to be working with. Like if I wasn't on these shows, I'd be home going, God, why can't I get on that show? I love that show because I love their humor. And when I I had the great privilege of actually twice, with 30 Rock and with Kimmy, seeing the pilots before I was in them, which is very rare. And
Because that's right, you weren't in the original pilot for 30 Rock, right? You weren't in the
Correct.
original pilot for Kimmy Schmidt?
This character was not in the original pilot for Kimmy Schmidt.
Was that in the case with the first season as well? She didn't appear until like maybe the second episode, or did they reshoot and bring you into the pilot? I don't remember.
They reshot and added her in. I think it was one of the things that they wanted to open it up to more than just 2 characters in the pilot, so we would know where the show was going to grow to. And I do believe this character was going to show up at some point in the series, but I don't think they knew it would be in the pilot or be a series regular. And so when Tina asked me to come on, I had really no idea who the character was going to be and what the differences would be or what she had in mind. Because of how far she always pushes me comedically and takes these characters that she writes for me, I was like, oh God, this could be anything. What have I signed on for? So I loved the pilot, and I loved its unique, for Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, I loved its very unique tone. I loved that it was so different than anything I had seen because it was about such a very dark topic, but told with such humor. And I remember there being a moment where the mole women go on the Today Show in the pilot, and as they are, which I thought was hilarious, and then they were given gift bags on the way out, and they said, "Thank you, victims, thank you." And I was like, oh, this show is for me. And then she sent me the first script, and my character was introduced by offering Kimmy a bottle of water, and she says no, and I throw it away immediately. And I was like, oh, I know who this woman is. Yeah, I just felt the character was so clearly defined in that 1 second. And I think I went on to say, get me up at 10, but don't wake me up. It was like a monologue of things that so clearly described who this woman was. And I don't really think we had much further in-depth discussion. I think it was so clearly written in that first episode that...
You just kind of showed up and did it. Like you had a clear idea as to what it was, and there weren't really big conversations as to how you should play it or anything like that?
There was sort of an overall scope of where the character would go and what her function was on the show, I think. And to sort of describe how we were all representing a slightly different demographic between all the characters and their viewpoints on the show. But as I say, I just thought it was written so clearly that I felt like in that particular episode, I didn't have to have great discussion or explanation. I thought it was so clearly written and beautifully written. And one of my favorite things about playing Jacqueline is how unabashedly she is part of the 1%, that she commits to it, and that is her preferred identity, and is going to try to stick with it.
They're very good at writing you characters that have sort of like, the quality is they are unabashed about one thing that most people are not unabashed about. Like on 30 Rock, unabashedly vain and narcissistic, the character.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And on this, she is unabashedly narcissistic. Do you look to people in pop culture for inspiration for this character, for your performance at all?
Well, I feel like it's so clearly written on the page, so I don't necessarily feel like I needed to in the sort of the prep stages. And I think what's wonderful about working with Tina and Robert again was that I felt there was a bit of a shorthand in the structure of the comedy. Like I kind of know sometimes what they write on the page, what they're going for, and what they hope that I will be able to do, which I think has been super helpful, and I love and appreciate that.
Has there ever been something that you weren't able to do? I mean, I think you're incredible. You can do anything, but that's such a fascinating moment when a comedian or an actress hits a moment, and you're like, I don't know if I feel this, or I don't know if this is going to work for this moment, and people figure it out.
Look, there are moments like that all the time where there's something that I don't fully understand, or I'm like, I don't know if I could totally justify what it is, or I'm not sure. And to be honest with you, those tend to be the more sincere moments. It's more of the honesty than the over-the-top quality that I have to work a little harder on, or that I question. Mostly I question it, why would the character do that? Because these characters are written to such a heightened level. But there are times... This just was brought up to me yesterday by Tina Fey, and it makes me laugh because I think sometimes they write things in there just to see if I will do it or could do it. And I remember she brought up this scene yesterday. There was a scene in 30 Rock, I don't know if you remember, but I think we were both vying for the same man, and it said, Jenna does that sort of, that awkward thing where they yawn and then they put their arm around the person, and they said, but Jenna does it with her leg. And they rolled the cameras and I just did it with my leg, and she was like, oh no, we never intended that you could possibly do that. I was like, oh, I practiced at home. I thought that's what you wanted.
What did they want?
They did want that. They did, but they just didn't think it was like feasible that a human would want to or
So
would.
the joke would be you trying to do this and sort of failing, but you just did it with grace and poise.
No. The character was supposed to do it with grace and ease, but they just didn't think that it was physically possible. And I was like, no, I think I got this. I think I'm good. Of course, we changed to wearing shorts instead of a skirt.
One of the things that I love about any great show is that as it develops over the course of a few seasons, peripheral characters get to be brought in a little bit more and they get to be developed. And we're seeing Amy Sedaris even more this season, which is so funny. She's so incredible. What's it like working with her?
Okay, I am like an enormous fan, and I feel so honored that she is my character's acquaint to me. And that, she is the best wing woman you could possibly have. I mean, anybody in show business, just add Amy Sedaris to any scene and hilarity is going to happen. I just think she's incredible. I think she's amazing. And we have so many good storylines together this year, which makes me so happy.
And she's so fearless, I find, as a comic actress as well. I mean, the sushi moment in one of the more recent episodes was pretty absurd.
I don't know if you guys got to see that yet, but...
I was keeping it coy.
Yeah, it was very good. Coy, very good. She is fearless and enormous, and I mean that as an absolute compliment, because I think it is more scary and more frightening to go as big as you possibly can, and she does it so amazingly well.
Jacqueline has a few Trump jokes this season. I imagine it was because they were writing it and shooting most of it during the campaign. What is it like to be a comic representative of the 1% when the most comic representative of the 1% is now in charge of the country?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people would have thought that season 3 would have more political references than it does, but actually most of season 3 was written before the election, and we filmed almost half of season 3 before we knew who was going to be the new president of the United States. And so there are a few political references, but I will say I think what works about them is that they are all completely character-driven. I mean, of course, Jacqueline is a supporter of Trump and follows what he says, and probably went to many galas with him in her socialite life. So to me, it was there is political commentary in it, but they were all character-driven, which I thought was really quite good. And I know you mentioned the other one where people are yelling, "Lock her up!" at Jacqueline
lock her up
as well. So
what was it like to have that
be the political representative of
both parties?
Yeah, both parties, pro or con, in the show.
Well, after I watched that scene, after laughing, I thought to myself, "Oh, what was it like to have people chant 'Lock her up' at you?" Like that was shot, I'm assuming, before the election actually took place, because I think you said it was like halfway through shooting, the election happened. But what was it like to actually have people chanting 'Lock her up' on set?
That happens to me a lot, actually. No.
Quite often.
It felt like home. No, I mean, obviously the reference was not lost on myself or any of the other people. So, I think the character had quite a similar reaction to me, like, what is happening? Why are people yelling this at me? So that sort of made it easier.
I would imagine most people have that reaction if that's being yelled at them. Why are people yelling at this man? Talk about Jacqueline's arc this season. What's going on with her? What can we see?
Well, we pick up where we last left off. So Jacqueline is still with Russ, if you watched the end of season 2. And our quest is to get the Washington Redskins to change their name. And in the beginning of the season, Russ is off doing a lot of his other working assignments. And so he interestingly leaves Jacqueline to take care of some of his assignments back in New York, which is questionable right there. But I think Jacqueline's big arc this year is that by the end of season 3, she really learns how to stand on her own 2 feet, which she says is difficult for her because she has Barbie arches. But she really does, and I've never. I think something that was so wonderful about Jenna was that she didn't really grow or change. What you loved about her, the core of her stayed the same through 6 or 7 seasons of television, if you count the writer's strike. I don't know how I never know how we break down 30 Rock of how many years we were on, because we were like 6.5 really. But
that probably has to do with, I would imagine, doing something on Netflix where you're not doing it sort of weekly, pumping out these episodes weekly and doing 24 episodes, and you're just trying to get as many jokes out there. The writers can actually sit with the material a little bit longer and probably care about the overarch of the character a little bit more.
I think that was one of the differences they wanted to make between the two shows, and I do agree that because we were on Netflix, we had more of that opportunity. But I also think Jacqueline was a character that had the most opportunity to grow and perhaps need to grow. And so I just had not played a character that changed so much within 3 seasons in a good way. And what a wonderful thing to get to play, because now I actually do have more questions for them when I get the scripts, because I was like, oh, I never thought she would do this or feel this way. And, is she still coming from the same perspective to play this, or from her mindset? And so that's been actually a big difference in the process. Because she has grown so much. I mean, by the end of season 3, she's actually going to have to get a JOB, which is a very hard word for her.
I can't imagine what that job is actually going to be.
It's good. It's worth it.
I think that goes back to something that you were saying, that it's hard for you sometimes to play the more sincere stuff. Is that a reference to this season and Jacqueline growing a little bit more this season? Did you find that you had more sincere scenes to take on?
I didn't mean it I didn't mean that statement as a reference towards this season or this show per se. I just think what is interesting about the tone of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt is that, yes, there is this dark underbelly, but it is told in such a light way with more jokes per page than many or most shows that you see on TV, and that it's structured so well, but that there are moments that can be earned to where it can slow down and stop and have real emotion. And I find it surprising when Jacqueline gets those moments, and refreshing. I mean, I appreciate it, but there's a very fine line to walk where it is set up joke, sincere moment, and then pick up with the joke. And that's a very unique tone that I have, that has been new to me on this particular show. And I love it because it's an enormous challenge. It's a great challenge, but I love it, and I think Jacqueline can walk that line. I think Titus Burgess does it beautifully. I think he's someone who can be as high as we want him to be, and then though he really cares about Mikey or whatever it is that he's saying. And I think, as do all the characters, but I think that's something they have explored further in season 3. I think it's a season about where you learn a lot about where these characters are going instead of where they are.
Speaking of Titus, and I think we can talk about this because the episodes are up and it was in the trailer, but their episode 2 is an incredible homage, if you will, to Beyonce, a little-known artist, Beyonce's Lemonade. What did you guys think when you all got that script? Where did that idea come from, and it's an incredible homage. It's so funny. It's
amazing. And
walking on
does
the beach.
Amazing, and the costume is amazing, and I mean all of it. One of my favorite things is that we don't really know what's going to happen to our characters or in the scripts until the day we get to the table read, and we do the table read, once every episode, obviously, and it comes down from the offices literally as we're sitting there waiting to read, hot from the Xerox machine, and it is such an amazing experience to have, because all the creators and writers and actors and creative teams, production design, props, everybody is in the room to see what is going to happen to all of us. But when you're reading it, you are performing it as your character, but you're also appreciating it as an audience member. And when we all saw that Lemonade start, we were just like, what?
I can't imagine if you didn't know that was going to happen, and all of a sudden you got to page 4, and it's like exterior dream sequence. Titus walks down the street with baseball bat, singing a new version of Lemonade. Everyone must have been freaking out.
Freaking out. And Titus had a slight heads up because when you sing a song on the show, they tend to call you like an hour earlier and send you, an MP3 of it, so you're slightly prepared. Because the brilliant Jeff Richmond brings his little keyboard and we'll play them live, all the music, which is really fun too. And so if he did get a slight heads up earlier that was going to happen, but he kept it under wraps until we got there.
Oh, good for him.
It's major. It's major for all of us, even those of us who were not involved.
Oh my God, the dance that she's doing in the background.
So good. So good.
I'm going to turn it over to the audience in just a second, but both with 30 Rock and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, what I really love about these shows is the feeling of delight that you get from the creators behind it. Just while watching it, it feels like everybody's having a wonderful time. And what I also like about it is the jokes can be really dark, but delivered with a lot of color and delight as well. Does it feel that way while you're shooting it, while everybody's working on it, that you guys are just all having a really great time?
Delight is the perfect word. There is delight in every minute that we are
delightful. Look at the colors.
Delight is a really great word to describe it, and I think we had that instantly with Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt from the minute we all met on day one on set. We are all delighted to be there, and we are all delighted to have this material. And I just, that's a really great word to choose. I haven't heard somebody say that before or pick that word, but it's a perfect way to describe the tone that is there every day when we're filming.
Let's get some questions from the audience. Right here.
Hi, Miss Jane. My name is Kiara. I first noticed you in Alex Haley's Queen. So I wanted to ask you, do you like doing comedic work better than dramatic, and what was that experience like from going from Alex Haley to now the comedy work on NBC and 30 Rock?
What an amazing callback to a job that I did so very long ago. Of course, I was honored to be a part of that project, and obviously a very serious project that I think started Halle Berry in one of her very first jobs ever. So much of your career path, I have to say, goes by what jobs you get. And at that point, I had no idea that this is where my career would unfold. And so I feel really lucky, I have to say, that I get asked to do jobs in many different genres. And, one of my favorite things is Broadway musicals, and I've been very lucky to be in a bunch of Broadway musicals. And so you don't know where the path is going to take you. And, just in the recent years, this has been the focus of the employment that I've gotten. But that's an amazing callback. Thank you for bringing up that project.
That's the wonderful thing, or the interesting thing about being an actor or an actress, is that so often the projects that you've been a part of are viewed as like your choice, or this sort of overarching idea that you had for your career path. Right. And the word employment is actually sort of what it is sometimes, and the path is because that's
certainly
what
in the beginning,
kept going.
for sure. Yeah, exactly. And I think there is a point where you do get a little bit more choice, or if you have the opportunity to have choice to take certain jobs or not take certain jobs. But certainly in the beginning, and that show in particular, that movie was such a project with such great respect and reverence. So it was an honor to be a part of it, and to get that, it was like a big deal when I got to be in that movie. So yeah, you never know. There's many others that I hope no one mentions today.
Let me check my list here. Next question. Who's the microphone? Oh, right here.
Hi, Miss Jane.
Hi.
I loved you, and she loves me.
Thank
That
you
was
so much.
very
I think we
beautiful.
met.
We did.
We did. We've met outside the stage door.
That's right. My question for you is, what would happen if Jenna from 30 Rock met your character on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt? Met Jacqueline. God. How would they react? How would that go down?
I think neither one would hear what the other person was saying. They would just both be talking. That would be amazing. Like when you get to be like evil twins on a soap opera? Oh my God, I'd love that. Let's just have Jacqueline walk through Rockefeller Center one day and run into Jenna.
So
oh my God.
They'd look each other up and down and sort of...
Do I know you?
I think we have time for one more question.
Hi, my name is Joe, and first off, I just want to say I absolutely loved you as Jenna in 30 Rock.
Thank you.
And I was just wondering, what was one of your favorite memories from filming 30 Rock?
What was one of my favorite memories? There's so many. I mean, I have to say it was one of the great jobs of all time, and we all knew it as we were making it because we all got along so well, and it was such a great creative project. And although maybe many people did not watch it, we were loving making it.
Is that true? Were the ratings for 30 Rock not?
I think the ratings were pretty low.
Award-winning.
I think they were consistently low. But
It was award-winning.
But then something happened. I mean, it was award-winning and critically acclaimed, and then it got a cult following, and so it changed its path. But there are so many. I think of individual scenes that I love so much. One of my favorite scenes was with Alec Baldwin when he questions Jenna about her age. That is one of the all-time classics to me. I will never forget Kidney Now, when all of those music people came, and I talk about going too far, or doing something that no one would ever in life do. I had a sing-off with Mary J. Blige. What? Not recommended. Not recommended, white girl, sit down. So that was one of the great standouts. There's certainly the tearful goodbye at the very end was emotional for all of us.
Jane, I love your work. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt is on Netflix now. The lovely Jane Krakowski, everybody. Thank you so much, Jane.